Welcome to the 30/30 Health Podcast. The following discussion is for education and entertainment. It is not intended to diagnose or treat disease. Please do not apply any of this information without first discussing it with your doctor. Here is your host, Dr. Ruiz.
Hello everyone, super excited about my guest today. My guest today is Kylene Turhune. Kylene is a personal trainer, functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, and certified autoimmune protocol coach. She left her master's degree in opera to begin the journey of attaining optimum health for herself. In the process, she discovered a passion for helping others and an enjoyment of research and learning. In this podcast, we discuss gut health, tricks to breaking your sweet tooth habit, and she even shares her special recipe for bone broth. I hope you enjoyed the show. Hello everyone, super excited to have my friend Kylene Turhune from Tiny Fit Diva. We just met like IRL this weekend at Mindshare. How are you?
I am so excited to be here. So that's such a funny story because I had reached out to you first. And so meeting you in real life was such a great surprise because I was totally fanning out over your podcast. and then I realized, I was like, I'm going to message him and tell him how awesome his podcast is. And then like 2 days later, I'm listening to your podcast and I realized we're going to be at Mindshare the next week. And I actually get to see you in real life. That was just really cool. That was the cherry on top.
It's crazy, because I've been on this community, in this whole community for a while. And it turns out that we have so many of the same friends.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I fan out whenever someone wants to fan out for me. So my girlfriend told me once, you're not supposed to fanboy if someone was wearing your shirt. It's like, just let it be, dude. But it's just so exciting that someone is listening, that the message is truth and the message is helping people. And that's what makes me continue to come back home after a long day of work and then record another podcast so we can continue educating, so we can continue helping, so we can continue this mission. Before we continue this mission, Tiny Fit Diva, what is your hero story?
So I knew you were going to ask me this question because obviously I listen to your podcast. But it is still, and I love that question. I love listening to people's answers to it, but it's still such a weird thing to be asked because I don't view myself that way. I feel like I haven't really arrived. I feel like I'm still growing so much.
I need to change that. Instead of like heroes, it's like your journey. We're not done. So what is your hero's journey?
I guess I'll start because, really it starts in childhood, but I'll start a little later than that and save the details. So really it started in my early to mid-20s, and I started noticing I was tired like all the time, and I knew enough that I was like, this isn't normal, this is supposedly the healthiest age of my life. I should feel great. I had gone back to school. I had taken some time off, and so I went back to college, and I was coming home in the middle of the afternoons, and I was so tired that I would crash, and I would just completely zonk out for like 2 hours at a time. Sometimes I'd wake up and feel shaky. It was enough that I knew. I was like, okay, I need to figure out what the heck, something's going on. So I did. I went and pursued some blood work, and it didn't give me a whole lot of information. I had some low ferritin, but not a lot came up on that. And eventually my moms always know best, right? We went over to dinner one time and my mom was reading this book by William Davis called Wheat Belly. And so she said, hey, I think I'm going to go gluten-free. And I was like, what? You are a crazy lady. I was like what you would consider a breadaholic. I was the kind of person that would go to the Italian restaurant and be like, why are we ordering dinner? Because we're feeding, I'm eating all of the breadsticks. I had a blog that was called Double Stuff's Not Enough, meaning double stuffed Oreos were not stuffed enough, and I would make them quadruple stuffed because I liked them so much. So, that's kind of where I was in my life. And so when she said this, she's like, well, I'm just reading this book. I'm like, okay, I'm interested. Let me read it too. And a few days later, I was by the pool with my now husband, and I said, hey, honey, I think we're going to have to give up bread. And he was kind enough to do it with me. So that was sort of the beginning. And I started noticing some positive changes. I was able to get out of bed and have some energy and things like that. And actually, when I met him, he was more on a health journey than I was at the time. He was a runner. He got me into doing green smoothies. And so it was all kind of coming together where I started getting interested into nutrition, into living a healthy life and that sort of thing. But, as we progressed in our relationship, I had some stressors. I mean, marriage is a stressor. Being a stepmom is a stressor. I had gone back to school. I graduated. I had like 3 UTIs in 1 year. So there's just like a lot going on in my life during this period of time. And so in 2015, I actually crashed. And this was really the turning point for me. My body just completely shut down. I had 2 weeks of absolute complete insomnia. I couldn't sleep. I basically had chronic panic attacks. I was crying every single day. I didn't know what was happening. I had these scary, scary thoughts that were coming in that were making me feel like I wasn't myself. And I just really felt broken.
Is this before you went gluten-free?
No, this is actually after. So we were on, we were actually pretty much paleo at this point. But because of so much stress and some other things, I just ended up totally bonking, basically. And so I went to the doctor twice in a 2-week period, trying to at least get something to help me sleep, because I was like, if I could at least sleep, you can wake up and have a brighter outlook, right? Because I couldn't handle life at the time. I was literally steps away from being committed to a psych ward. I mean, my husband had to come home a few times to babysit me. I mean, it still upsets me to even think about that. So I asked my doctor on the second visit, I said, hey, she could only offer me an antidepressant. And I was like, but I'm not depressed. Like, that's not what's happening. And so I knew enough. I said, hey, should I get my hormones tested? And she said, well, if you're still cycling, you're getting your period, that's really unnecessary. And I said, okay, thanks. And then I'm going to go figure this out on my own. So that was really the start for me. I really wanted to figure it out. So I started getting interested in fitness, and I was already sort of into the paleo and the nutrition side of it. So I started coaching online in terms of, I was a Beachbody coach for a little while, so online at-home workouts. And that surrounded me by a lot of positivity. So mentally, that was great for me. I got surrounded by a lot of wonderful women, a lot of encouragement, kind of, was a really positive thing. I went ahead and I got hormone testing. I found somebody that would do that. So I ended up on some bioidentical hormones, which at the time, got me out of the rut. But I still was like, I want to figure out, what I was curious, like what actually happened to my body? Why was this going on? And so then I became a personal trainer, and then eventually started to dig deeper. I really wanted to understand the underlying causes, got my FDN certification, and helped myself, and figured out that a lot of it was related to actually gut health problems, which is why I'm so passionate about gut health. So long kind of windy road of how I became and got to where I am. But basically, I'm just super passionate about achieving optimum health, and I don't want to settle for anything less.
And for people listening, and for people on Insta, and for people on Facebook and all that crap, it's really funny because they see snapshots. They hear an hour of us talking, and we are far from perfect. Today is 1 year since I started practicing.
Congratulations. Happy 1 year anniversary.
Thank you. And for the past year, I think I have been working on my health harder than the past 5 years, because when you're in medical school, it's almost like you can go, and you don't sleep and you study hard, and then you get to the finish line, and that's when you hit the wall. And now the recovery begins. And it's funny, because I do have like a tiny bit of an online presence, and I do take too many selfies, but that's not my life. Like during Mindshare, during my conventions, I sleep very poorly. I might drink a little too much, and I have to wake up really early, and I have
Dry Farms wine. You can't say no.
Yeah.
It's sugar-free.
Especially when they're just like shoving it in front of your face. It's like, did you try the rosé? But those are cool opportunities to take a selfie because you're with like people you love, Dr. C and Mark Sisson and Aaron Sanderson and Ari Whitten and all those guys that are amazing, and we're having fun, But then I come back home and I'm like, oh my goodness, I need to sleep.
Oh yeah, you gotta crash.
And that's the same thing, with our own ongoing journey with health. We're never there. Once you taste feeling amazing, you never want to leave it. And you're always looking for the next quote unquote high of like, what is the next thing that I can do to optimize myself?
100%. I'm still not done with my own gut health. I mean, I help people with theirs and I'm still working on mine. It's a progression. You're constantly learning. You have to learn to listen to your body. And I think that's, it's almost like the more you know, the more you have to work on. So the more educated you become. I remember when I was an opera singer, that's actually what I went to school for. It was like the better I got, the worse I felt I was because I was able to pick myself apart more. So I think there's an aspect of that to anything we do in terms of learning.
There's a lot of self-learning at this conference that we go to. There's a lot of like self-exploration and sitting there listening to the who's who of health, the pros, the coach's coach telling us, listen to your body. You need to optimize yourself. You need to do this for yourself so you can help people. When you fly, you got to put that mask on yourself before you can put it on your kids. We have to take care of ourselves if we want to help people. And if we leave it to, I'll start tomorrow or, I'll have an extra, blah, 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 then that's not serving them. We are in this journey with you and we have the same concerns as you and we're looking for the same answers as you. And that's pretty cool. But at the same time, when you like in the Matrix, pick the right pill and you start noticing, oh shit, I can actually shit now.
Oh my God, yes.
And
it's so true.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, when you have like the right nutrients in your body and then all of a sudden things start working well.
Yeah.
Yes, amen.
You go on vacation and you are, you kick your heels a little too much and then you don't feel the same, okay? You want to feel that high. You want to feel that amazing digestion. You want to feel that way. And then you start doing things to try to chase it and go back to normal. The difference is this. And I talk about a lot about, the difference between being hungry and the difference between hangry. Being hangry is a blood glucose dysregulation, and that's your body in oh shit mode. That's a medical emergency. I need to eat something now before I pass out.
Or kill someone.
Yeah. Because that's the innate reptilian brain telling you your glucose is too low to sustain your brain. Okay? And then being hungry is actually motivating. It's actually, it gets you excited to go look for food, to plan, to, in that fasting state, things are working a little bit better. You start, getting rid of bad proteins. You start upregulating different things. You start prepping your body to eating. One side, the hungry, is motivating and good for you, and it feels great to be hungry. The other side feels like crap. Most people in the United States don't know what being hungry is. They just know that sugar crash.
Yeah, I was going to say too, I'm not sure a lot of people know what feeling good feels like. And so I think sometimes they get stuck because they don't actually know what it's like. I, for the longest time, thought that I was not a morning person. And then when I started getting healthier and healthier and healthier and healthier, it's funny because now I know that I can wake up with energy in the morning. And if I don't, I know that something's wrong. But, for the longest time, that wasn't my reality. And so I think until you just make this decision that I want to have optimum health, I'm not going to settle for mediocrity. And then you have that motivation.
And within that, you just don't know what you don't know.
That's why we're here.
Yes, we're here, because we don't know anything. And
we're spreading the truth.
yeah, we're aiming for the truth, you know. As you continue on your journey, you know, sometimes you make mistakes, and sometimes, you know, you realize that maybe, you know, running marathons that you were doing for health was actually a disservice to your body, and you were just hurting your joints, and you know, it feels good, it releases dopamine, and you know, and it's very exciting, endorphins are released, and you know, and you can train and it's motivating, but it's not the best. And finding the best and sometimes changing course takes a better person to do something like that than just to stick to your guns and continue doing the same thing over and over and over.
Right. Yeah. It's absolutely a journey that you have to be willing to change your lifestyle, change your mindset. You have to be willing to constantly learn. I think health is always ongoing for sure. And there's always new information coming out, you know. The things that we did for health 10 years ago are not the same things we did 5 years ago, and vice versa. We're constantly learning.
I'm writing a series of blog posts for my website, and they're about, like, they start with, like, I used to have a pill organizer. You know, Sunday night, I want to organize my pills for, you know, for the week. And maybe at some point it was necessary, and maybe some people on their journey to health do need to organize a bunch of supplements and take them. But that's not forever, you know, and we should aim to get our nutrition from food, and we should aim to maybe just take a multi, you know, just to cover the bases. But you cannot out supplement sickness.
That is such a good, say that again. You cannot out supplement sickness.
Yeah. And, you know, just like you don't have a metformin deficiency, you don't have a cinnamon deficiency, you don't have a, you know, Eleutherococcus or a rhodiola deficiency. But habits are hard. I joke around with my friends at golf that in golfing, you can just spend more money and get better. You know, you can buy better shoes. You can buy a better golf club. You can buy a better balls. You can buy, you know, you can buy and spend. And those are micro improvements. In other sports, you actually have to practice, and you know, because it's just you and a ball. This is the same with health. You know, it would be awesome if we could completely 100% biohack ourselves and just throw money at the pit and make ourselves better just by buying and buying and buying and buying. But the reality of the thing that those are tools, and when the rubber meets the road, habits rule. Speaking of habits, you have a family and you're responsible for kids. How did you manage from going to, oh, you know, I like double stuffed cookies to, hey, hon, you remember that crappy bread that I brought like last week? We're going to eat nothing but that. And then how do you convince and motivate kiddos? How do you, what strategies did you have to help your family adopt this new health lifestyle?
I think my answer may be really empowering to some people and might also really offend other people. So I'm just going to tell it how my personal story and how it happened with us. But so our first step really was going gluten-free. And initially what that meant was that we just replaced regular Oreos with gluten-free Oreos. So that was kind of the very beginning of my journey, really where I was getting started kind of understanding food. Then I continued to research, and we transitioned more into the whole foods lifestyle, no chemicals, not, if we have a gluten-free Oreo, it's a treat, not in the pantry. In our house. Yeah. So it was a little bit of a transition. My husband, Patrick, like I said, he was kind of already into health. And so the concept for him was, okay, this is just a new challenge. So he was actually really on board, which was great. That made it way easier. I know I work with a lot of women that sometimes the husbands can be a little bit difficult and bring chips in, whatever, while they're trying to work on their own health, the husbands sometimes undermine a little bit. But kids can also be particularly hard. So like I said, I think my approach may offend some people, it may be empowering to some people, but in my house, you eat what I give you. You do not have another option. And so when I started changing our diets, what is healthy for me is healthy for you. And what is not healthy for me is not healthy for you. And I don't think it's acceptable for me to say, I value my health, and so I'm going to make a really nutrient dense dinner, but you can have macaroni and cheese because I don't value your health. Yeah, that would be me training him to not value his own health as he ages. And so what I do he has to do. And so, when I was growing up in my house, it was either you eat it or you get spanked and eat it. That's not really necessarily the rule in my house now as an adult, but that was basically it. I'm going to start making these foods, and I try to make them as good as possible. The thing is, it's good food, and the thing about kids, and this is the thing I really want to communicate to other moms, the thing about children is, especially if you get them at a young enough age, their palates change like that, and they will start craving the good food. They will start liking it, start adapting to it immediately, and they're going to start, not missing the other stuff as much. The other side to that is there are so many recipes out there now. People have figured it out. They have changed the game. There are so many recipes for, sweet potato brownies or grain-free chocolate chip cookies that you don't have to feel like you're missing out on a birthday or on a celebration. You can still have these treats and not be putting yourself into this blood sugar spiral, into a mental brain fog coma. You're not going to break out from these foods, but you can still have a treat. You're not going to get bloated, whatever it is that your reaction is to these foods. But so basically I just said, all right, I'm going to do it. And I just keep digging deeper. I keep learning more, and we keep making tweaks. But that was sort of my approach.
And I love how you qualified that as, okay, you can have it at a birthday party, you can have it, on a special occasion, because those are, those foods are traps. I was at AHS and we were at a talk about biological or evolutionary traps. Like, for example, when turtles are hatching, and evolutionarily, they would hatch in a pitch black beach, and then they would look at the moon, and they would follow the moon to the water at night, so there's less predators, so they hit the water and then they can survive. Okay. But when hotels started to buy properties or incandescent lights, then if the turtle was born facing in the wrong direction and saw a light bulb instead of the moon and starts following that light bulb, then they're gonna wake up in the morning in the middle of a road, or a dog's gonna eat the turtle, or that turtle's not gonna make it to the water. Same thing, like a gluten-free brownie or a sweet potato brownie. That's like a fake light bulb.
The ultra palatable,
processed. You need to follow the moon, and the moon is going to be your nutrient dense, foods, less processed, less, natural foods that would be available in our environment. And we can use those things to make life just worth living. It's fun to eat, gluten-free brownie, although I prefer gluten-free pizza. But, it's just, it's not about being perfect. Don't let perfection be the enemy of good. But also, don't fall into the trap. Don't let hope get in the way of progress. And if you just hope that, by eating gluten-free, I'm just going to be healthier. Well, you can hope all day long, but unless you do the habits, unless you set rules at the table, unless you say, sorry, hon, we're not going to be able to order from the kids' menu because that is crap. We're a steakhouse, you're having steak, Michelle Tam from Num Num Paleo has a blog post about this same topic, and she said, we always had eggs, and one of her kids was kind of picky, and he would eat an egg. And okay, you tried it, cool, I'll fry you an egg. So having the ability to have a system to where you're not starving your kids, but teaching and having that teaching moment, that's more valuable than anything.
Yeah, and I think too, figuring out what motivates them. So my son actually he wasn't feeling very well last year, and so doing what I do, I was able to run some stool tests and kind of get to the bottom of it. And he had a lot of things going on in his gut, and so we had to sort of dial in on his nutrition a little bit more. And he was a little resistant at first. I mean, kids want to feel like they fit in, so anything that, especially if they're going to school and they're around other kids, anything that kind of takes away from that is difficult for them. But midway, it was funny, he found this bag of candy that he thought we were hiding from him. We weren't really, we just didn't want to have it at that time, right? And so he got really upset, and I found the bag just filled with wrappers. He ate it all. But what was great about that situation is that he then was able to physically associate that made him feel bad. And we had a conversation, and I was able to tap into his ultimate goals because he has a lot of goals for his future. And I said, look, dude, we have to focus now for a short period of time because we want you to be a healthy adult so you can reach all those goals. So we got to fix this first, and then we can lighten up and move on. So there's a couple, depending on your kid, obviously, and what they're going through and what your approach is, there's a couple different ways you can come at it. But they can do it is the point. They can do it.
Do you have a sweet tooth?
I do. Yeah. I mean, double stuff's not enough, right? I do. I don't know if you follow Danielle Walker Against All Grain.
Mm-mm.
There's a couple paleo bloggers that really kind of saved our lives in the transition period. And I always recommend them to a lot of my clients. Danielle Walker Against All Grain, she has this real deal chocolate chip cookie that's basically tastes like Toll House. So if somebody's looking for a chocolate chip cookie, I always send them there. And Elena's Pantry, Elena Amsterdam, elenaspantry.com. And her specialty, I feel like, is creating the most flavorful dishes with the fewest ingredients. So if you're a busy mom or if you're just a busy person in general and you want to cook healthy meals, she's really great because you can pretty much go on there and it's sometimes you're like, it's 4 ingredients. How is this going to taste good? And she nails it. So I always like those too. But there's a lot. I mean, there's just so many resources now. If you are having a major craving, you can make it happen.
How did you break your sweet tooth?
I honestly think I'm just so passionate about researching and learning, and I keep trying new things that I just sort of delved into the lifestyle. So of whole foods, so healthy fats, whole food sources of carbohydrates, proteins, and, some fruits and vegetables. And so over time, it sounds like such a cheat. Like people are going to be like, oh my God, I hate you. But it kind of just went away. I mean, I still have it. There's occasionally times where I still really crave something or, for treats or whatever. But I mean, honestly, when you eat real food for a period of time, those cravings really do go away.
It's funny you say that because what's worse, saying I don't have a sweet tooth and I don't, and people get upset.
How dare you? Well, the other thing, and you know this, but different bugs in your gut can cause, like yeast overgrowth can cause severe sugar cravings. So if you really truly try to eat healthy and you cannot overcome it, you might need to get some like a poop dust. Do you limit the amount of fruit you have?
Like, I don't like fruit.
Perspective on that? You don't like fruit? Oh, because that's too sweet.
Yeah. So it's like if I make like chicken salad, I have a recipe for chicken salad and I put cranberries. And like that sweetness, that right there, just like elevates it. And I can understand that. I had a salad the other day, and it had a couple, at the convention, and it had some strawberries. And I was like, oh, man, that's delicious. But I'm not the person that's going to say, I wish I had some melon. No, no. And before, I would pick those strawberries out of the salad and just not even touch them. But it's funny, how if you're in either side of the spectrum, you kind of like, your body knows where you need to be, and it puts you at a different level. And so your palate does change.
It absolutely does. And I don't really think it takes that long. I think, people do elimination diets like Whole30 and things like that. And I think the longest period that you're going to feel any sort of withdrawal symptoms is 2 weeks max. I mean, usually it's way less than that, like maybe 4 or 5 days.
Unless you continue, expanding it by having a cheat day.
Yes. Oh, you are so right. That is like the worst thing ever. You know what else is terrible? This just drives me nuts. I'm going to throw it out there. I love elimination diets in when they're used appropriately. So, if your goal, like I work with some autoimmune clients and things like that. So sometimes I'll use the autoimmune protocol diet, and it's highly restrictive, right? And a lot of people, what's so super popular is Whole30, right? Both of those are amazing. But if they're used for the right reasons, which is to actually learn how to listen to your body and figure out exactly the foods that it likes and does not like. But what I see happening instead is people will go on this, what they consider a fad diet or whatever. And on day 31, they're eating pretzels and ho-hos and all this kind of stuff. They're like, I made it to day 31. And then they totally break it. And it's not an introduction to a new lifestyle. It's something that they think they accomplished for 30 days. And then what I'll see people do, and this is very common, is they'll do it for 30 days. they'll go completely off of it without having any sort of reintroduction to learn about what their body says. And then they'll just sort of use it as a detox. So they'll bring that, I'm doing Whole30 again. I'm doing Whole30 again. I'm doing Whole30 again. And then they wonder why they can't maintain. And it's because they never actually transition it into a lifestyle. And that's, I think, where the problem comes in.
And, I know your passion is gut health. I know that you healed yourself and and you can guide people. And that's one of the funny things about AIP or like the low FODMAP diet or SCD diet or GAPS diet. It's that the elimination part of things is going to make you feel better. Just like fasting is going to make you feel better. The problem is that the reintroduction phase is as important as the elimination phase.
So much, 100%. You want to get there and you want to spend some time in it.
And the problem is that, you do feel better, on a low FODMAP diet. And then you eliminate all of these things that could have some good, the FODMAPs, they're prebiotics. And prebiotics are so important for gut health. And if you cannot tolerate a prebiotic, something that is found in nature, you're not healed yet.
Right. Same thing with the AIP. Like you want to get to the point where you can reintroduce as much of the food as you possibly can, because it's all nutrient dense food most of it that you're eliminating. There's a couple top tier things that you keep out, but you want to get to the point where you bring in as much as you can, but you still through the process have to listen to your body, because some people just can't handle different foods randomly, like a tomato.
And within the gut health, you maybe lack the enzyme to break lactose. You might maybe lack lactase. Well, you probably will never you will never be able to reintroduce lactose products. Okay. But like if you do an IgG panel and you're like allergic, or you have a sensitivity towards green beans, and you think that just not eating green beans again is enough, that's not the way it works. And that's why you need to work with someone to help you decipher things.
Go ahead. Can I just explain really quickly? I know you have an extremely intelligent, educated audience. They may already know this, but can we explain really quickly what we mean when we say gut health?
Totally.
So we're talking about, when we're talking about having these food sensitivities and the need to heal so that we can bring food back in, what we're talking about is the integrity of your mucosal lining. So there's that epithelial cell lining in your GI tract. And what that does is it protects you from the outside world. It protects the inside of your body from the outside world. And so what it's protecting from is undigested proteins, toxins in the air, food sensitivities, pathogens, things like that, from getting into your bloodstream. And then we're also talking about the appropriate functioning of your immune system, which most of it is regulating your gut as well. So that epithelial cell lining can get damaged, the tight junctions can get broken, there can be inflammation from the immune system response, all those things. That's when you're having gut issues. And so when we're talking about a gut healthy living protocol, we're talking about calming that inflammation and making sure that epithelial cell lining and everything in that area is calmed down and healed and sealed. And then you can tolerate a lot more food.
To be able to reverse leaky gut or intestinal permeability, which is like the official term in PubMed. Now, so you're dropped in the middle of Cleveland. I don't know if you're in Cleveland. I just assume everyone in Ohio is in Cleveland.
Dayton, yeah.
So you're dropped in the middle of Cleveland, okay? And someone comes up to you, random person says, "Fix my gut." How do you begin that process? What's your triage process? Where do you start? Where do you see the end? How do you go about getting that leaky gut into a sealed gut?
So for me, my personal approach is to remove the stressors, repair the damage, and restore optimal health. That's sort of, I like to think of it, remove, repair, restore. So throughout the removal and repair process, you're going to restore your health and gain energy. So for my clients, what that looks like is I use functional lab testing to identify what some of those stressors may be. So some of the internal stressors like bacterial imbalances, viruses, parasites, food sensitivities. We want to remove any of those internal stressors that we can identify and target those. We want to calm the inflammation, support the immune system. But, there's a lot of stress. Stress isn't just, internal. We have a lot of, mental, emotional, physical stress. Your body interprets stress all the same way and it reacts the same way. So when I work with my clients, I do address emotional, mental. We talk about meditation. We talk about movement, whether they're exercising too much or not enough. We talk obviously about nutrition a lot. That's a big part of it. And then so one of the things I like to focus on as well, like I said, we want to remove all the stressors that we can identify, mental, emotional, physical, other, and we want to repair the damage and calm the inflammation. So again, when you do an elimination diet, sometimes that's all that happens is you just eliminate foods and then hope everything's fine. But I like to go in and actually bring in some tools to help repair the gut a little bit. So that can include things like L-glutamine, aloe in particular, if they have acid reflux, is very calming, bone broth, tools like that are so easy to incorporate, but just to accelerate that healing process. So you're not only removing the burden of stress, you're not only removing the things that cause inflammation, but you're also bringing in a lot of nutrients. You're bringing in a lot of soothing and calming things that are just easy to include anyway.
And I specifically love, with my patients when we're working on their gut health, I specifically love tools that are not a single shot or like a very specific thing. I prefer things like bone broth. Bone broth is a food, and you can put a little bit of bone broth over your Brussels sprouts.
Oh yeah. You can cook different things in bone broth instead of water, and it tastes so good.
And you can make you can grab some summer squash, put some bone broth, use the blender, blend it up, and now you have a nice creamy soup. And now
we're gonna have to make a cookbook. I like this.
And those are things that are not like you're gonna take because things like aloe. If you're just using aloe for the rest of your life, you didn't fix the problem. Things that are like very specific like that, we shy away from. But things like instead of using like fish oil, eating fish is more important. Fish oil is a technology that we can use in certain situations. But optimally, we want to get all of our nutrition, all of the amino acids, all of these things from food.
Yeah, and so if your gut is calmed down enough that it's not reacting to everything, and you're actively trying to bring in a heavily nutrient dense diet, and you're choosing 100% grass fed, you're choosing pasture raised, you're choosing, things that don't come with their own toxic load because of pesticides and hormones and things like that, then you're much, much more likely to then get the nutrient density that your body needs to create energy.
And at the same time, like when you explain how, you have that integrity of the lining is compromised. You might be eating the most beautiful food, but if you're not absorbing it, then nothing matters. So sometimes taking this a little bit more pre-processed amino acids are going to be better absorbed because you cannot, you cannot digest those proteins if they're, in the original form, like, for example, salmon, Now, what can people start doing today if they want to start removing, repairing, and restoring?
So I really think nutrition is the key. So I don't really like to work with people unless they're willing to completely upheaval their current norm. So if you're not willing to really change your perspective on what food does to your body, I really look at food as fuel and information for your cells. And so to me, food is really the building blocks. And so you can continue choosing foam building blocks, or you can switch over to concrete, where it's actually going to be stable and solid and helpful and stick around for a little while. But, if people aren't willing to work on nutrition, I don't really ever encourage them to even go into functional lab testing, because I'm going to work on your nutrition there anyway. So I think the very first thing that you can do at home is start listening to your body and, start researching, find a way that you can transition into eating real food. And I mean, honestly, I think it's more simple than people want to make it. If it has a label, it's not real food. meats, vegetables, fruits, healthy fats. It's pretty basic. I mean, it's not that you can't ever have something, a bar or a snack bar, but even then you want to turn the label over and look at the ingredients. And if that's something that you could have made in your home yourself because it's 4 ingredients and it's all real food, fine. Eat that. We all need things on a busy day. We all need those things that make it easy for us. But yeah, I would say, if anybody thinks, that they have something going on in their gut, eliminate the food factor first before you begin considering anything else.
So that's the remove. What about repair? What can they start doing for repair?
I would drink bone broth every day. Honestly, that's one of the easiest things that they can possibly do on their own. So it's really easy. Can I give them a recipe really quickly?
Oh, totally.
Okay, super easy. And you can do this in the crock pot or the Instapot, depending on how much time you have. So what I would recommend is getting a chicken. If you can find a whole chicken that's pasture raised, that would be the best. And cook it however you want for your dinner, if you're going to roast it or whatever, but you're going to use the meat for a meal. Get all the meat off the chicken, and then you're going to take the whole entire carcass, put it in your crock pot or Instapot, fill it up with water, cut up an onion, some carrots, some celery, and then throw in some poultry seasonings, which is usually rosemary, sage, and thyme. And if you want to put some garlic in there, maybe a splash of apple cider vinegar, and then you just let that sucker cook. So the Instapot would be for about 2 hours. The crock pot would be about 48 hours. And then you're going to get all those nutrients from the bones. You're going to get the collagen. It's really going to, I like the crock pot. It smells up the house. You can kind of snack on it in the days in between, and you can use it for a full 48 hours to really get everything out of the bones and the joints and the ligaments and everything that comes with that whole chicken. But yeah, really, really simple, really, really easy. And I drink it like coffee when I make it. So I just heat some up and drink a cup.
Sometimes instead of water, you want to make some refried beans, put some bone broth in them. You want to make a soup, use bone broth instead of water. You want to make curry, drop some bone broth. And it just elevates your food. It does.
It really does. I mean, I don't know if most of your listeners would be eating rice or not. Some may not. But if you cook rice or quinoa in bone broth instead of water, it just adds so much flavor to like anything you're gonna cook it in. So good.
It's just like a cool hack to impress your friends. Okay.
I'm so fancy.
Absolutely. Now, so that was the repair. What about the restore?
So throughout the process of removing the stressors and repairing the damage, you're automatically restoring your health. But, this is where you're going to think about, you want to bring joy in your life. So we talk about removing a lot of things. We talk about removing stressors in, mental, emotional, and physical. But you also want to actively bring things in that create joy for you. So it's not always the negative side of like removing something that's bad, but we also want to make sure that we are surrounding ourselves with positivity too. So, I mean, that can be anything from taking a walk outside, going on a hike so you're surrounded by nature, hanging out with friends that make you laugh, watching a funny movie, coloring, whatever it is that's a stress relief to you. But it's not just about, to me, when you think about stress relief, it's about getting into that super calm, super zen, right? That meditative state. It's not always about that. It's also about bringing things in that lift your spirits and make you happy. So, restoring your health is part of the whole entire process, is part of all 3 steps. And then ultimately the goal when you are healthy and you restore your gut health is that you roll out of bed with lots of energy and you're able to be there and function for your family, your friends, and your job.
And that's where, we have conversations. I have conversations with my patients about, they'll either say, "Oh, I'm going to take 60 supplements," or "I don't want to take one supplement." I want to and the conversation that I have with them is that it's not about the pills that you take in a day. It's about your ability to live life. I look at their, at their intake forms, and maybe they'll say, "Oh, I want to be able to walk my daughter down the aisle." If the way to do it, and to do it in an honoring way, and in a way to serve, is to take 60 pills in a day, but that's going to get you to walk your daughter down the aisle, it doesn't matter if it's 60 pills. If it's no pills or one pill or two pills that you or a prescription medication, maybe a statin or maybe high blood pressure medication, in order for you to be able to survive, to walk. Who cares? It's about life. It's about being present. It's now I wish you didn't have to take a statin or you didn't have to take blood pressure medication, but that comes down to habits.
Well, and your mental state affects so much of your health anyway. So the way you view taking those things, the way you view your situation is almost more important. So if the way you view a food when you're eating it affects how you digest it. I mean, if you view it as bad, you're probably going to get a stomach ache, or you're probably going to, not absorb the nutrients as effectively. If you're totally chill and you're having a great time with your friends and you're just totally relaxed, it's going to go in, you're going to absorb all the nutrients, it's going to break down way more effectively, which is like so crazy. But then we're getting into like epigenetics and all that kind of
stuff. And it's not that difficult to grasp, just think about it, just think about like going to a restaurant, and getting some a really nice, beautiful, filet mignon, and some Brussels sprouts, and with some clarified butter, if you start thinking about it, you can start salivating, and your digestion starts in your head. We are talking to a computer, and like I can incite this response on anyone that is listening and is able to follow this exercise. Imagine when you're putting stuff in your mouth, and it's so powerful, especially when we have a certain latitude for decisions in a day, and there is a thing called decision fatigue. And try it out next time, ask your spouse or your significant other in the, first thing in the morning, hey, what do you want for dinner? And they're probably going to be like, oh, maybe we can do this or that. Now ask the same question at 9 o'clock when you're hungry. I don't care. You choose. I don't know. And that's when it becomes really easy to go to pizza joint. That's when it comes really easy to just go to the drive-thru. If we prepare, if those habits, if we are, cooking ahead of time, if we are doing all of those things that setting up those systems to make decisions easier, then what are we having for dinner? Well, I didn't defrost, but I have a couple of frozen meals that I can thaw in 2 minutes. Okay, I guess we don't have to go eat pizza.
And that is such an important thing, because the concept of easy. So, you have to create a new easy.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, I just got to the point where driving up to Wendy's because I'm tired and I'm hungry it's literally not an option. I'll either go to Whole Foods, or I have a pound of ground beef that's frozen in my freezer, and so I'll thaw that out and I'll make some burgers. So it's not the fanciest meal, but it depends on what your motivation is and how committed are you to making it an actual lifestyle.
So we have reached the point of the lightning round, and I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, and we have not. You didn't know this, so I don't know what you're going to answer. You might, I might just roll my eyes and be like, "Oh, you're boring," but hopefully, hopefully, you're going to answer right, and then we can continue being friends, because this could be the make or break point. Okay.
I'm scared, Guillermo. Don't do this.
Okay, so question 1: what is your favorite seasoning?
Oh, my favorite seasoning is actually it's Primal Kitchen seasonings. I think that's what it is. And it's garlic and herb. Oh my gosh, it goes so well on everything.
Yeah, and having one of those will help you have systems, because like one of my favorite things to make, like on a whim, like if it's late and I have some boneless, skinless chicken thighs. You put some mustard on them. And fry them on a pan, takes 10 minutes, super delicious, and super easy. Okay. What is your favorite karaoke song, since you're an opera singer?
Oh, no, you can't ask me that. Just because I'm an opera singer does not mean I'm good at karaoke. In fact, it's the opposite. I am the worst karaoke singer in the history of the world.
So if you had to go to karaoke, possibilities are endless. What song would you pick?
The one I sang at Kings Island when I was like 14 years old was the Titanic theme song.
Oh my goodness.
I'm serious. The Celine Dion, yeah,
My heart will go on.
Yep. Okay, now that one I sang okay, all right.
I was hoping you would say Meatloaf.
I failed that one. I'm sorry.
Okay, favorite gluten-free treat?
Oh, well, we just got back from Mindshare, and so fresh on my mind right now is the paleo treats because they're so amazing. Oh my gosh, I love those. They're basically all good.
So I made it home with like 4 or 5 of them.
Did you seriously?
In a mug. I haven't tried them.
Oh my gosh. You've never had them? Oh, so my husband, he's amazing, by the way. He ordered me like an entire box one time for Mother's Day. And I'm pretty good, Guillermo. I think they lasted in my freezer for like 6 months or more because I didn't like binge on them. You know what I mean? I really, truly enjoyed them and I took my time and I was like, okay, I think I'll have a paleo treat tonight. Maybe I'll have a half or whatever. But they're so good. You're going to love them.
They're in my freezer. And
they're good cold too, like that. So you can eat them right out of the freezer.
This one's for Erin Sanderson, for Fit Rocker Chick. Okay. What is your favorite protein bar?
Oh, you know what it is now? This is new. I just tried Dave Asprey's Bulletproof chocolate chip cookie bar. It was like chocolate chip cookie dough or something like that. It was freaking amazing. Now, the thing about that bar is it crumbles like incredibly easily, but the flavor is insane.
Yeah, like she asked me and I was like, fasting?
Because no, that's a good one. Also Rise bars, but I mean, Bulletproof is whey protein, I think, as well. So if you do whey protein, I think Rise, RISE.
I finally said Epic bars. The venison Epic bar. It's the one that has the least amount of fat. Not that I'm against fat, but it's just, sometimes they can get like crazy. Like people are weird with texture. Final question. This is the make or break point. I think you're batting.
Are we still friends so far?
I think you're batting 500. What is the one thing that inspired you the most at Mindshare?
Oh, do I have to pick one? Oh,
yeah,
that's so hard.
One.
All right. This is going to sound really cheesy, so I hope we stay friends after this. It really, truly is the community of collaboration. I was so incredibly blown away by that. I went in feeling like a nobody, just shocked out of my mind that I was able to be there, blown away that I was in the same room as the people that I read their podcast, or listen to their podcast, I read their books, I buy their products. And everyone was so incredible. And I came out of it, oh my gosh, so much information, first of all, but also so much kindness. I mean, you were one of those people to me. I didn't know you before this. I reached out to you before I even knew you were going on Mindshare. So it was such a pleasant surprise. But then I show up and you introduced me to people. And I mean, that was happening all around us. There's so many people that were doing that. And so I really left. That was just that. I think that was it for me.
It feels like, you show up there. Everyone seems so famous. And then the DJ plays my favorite song. Right. And the Britney song is on. And it's like.
And you were literally dancing
boom.
with people.
Yeah. And it's crazy because everyone's so kind. And everyone, the message is, that the rising tide lifts all boats, and by collaborating and by helping, we have more things in common than we have against, and we're trying to build this community and help as many people as possible, and that was amazing.
Also, I mean, I ran into Dr. Terry Walls in the bathroom. You can't do that. I have to tell you this. I don't know if I told you this. This really cracked me up. So she was like the first, big person that I ran into while I was there. And I was like, I'm a fan. And she's like, would you like a selfie? And I was like, yes, I would. And she was like, should we go out of the bathroom to do it? I was like, that's a good idea. That was my experience.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Man, Kylene, it's a pleasure, hanging out this weekend. We met such cool people. Where can people find you? How can people get a hold of you? Where can people bother you with questions about bone broth?
That's an awesome question. Okay. They can follow me on social if they are on Instagram at the Tiny Fit Diva. They can go to my website, thetinyfitdiva.com, the podcast, The Tiny Fit Diva, and on Facebook, I have a free page or group that they can be a member of called Stop Dieting and Live Your Life. So you can pop in there, and if anybody wants to contact me for, I don't know, any reason, they can email me at Kylene at thetinyfitdiva.com.
That's awesome. And I know we're gonna keep running into each other for the rest of our careers.
I'll see you at PaleoFX, I think.
You're going to PaleoFX?
Yeah, man.
You better go.
It's happening.
Yeah. Hey, it's fantastic.
I can't wait.
It's amazing. Awesome. Love to have you back. Let's circle around in a couple of months. Let's get some questions from the listeners, and then let's talk, let's dig deeper into this ongoing conversation and try to help as many people as possible.
I would love to. Thank you so much for having me on.
No problem. Thank you, and talk to you soon.